All right, so I'm going to do a quick preview of Chapter 3 in your communication textbook. This chapter is called Communication and Personal Identity. So the whole chapter is about self and this process of developing ourself as we communicate. We're not born with this concept. It is developed over time, but it does begin developing even as a baby. And so your chapter begins talking about the particular others, those people that are significant in your life, family members, mothers, fathers, those people that help give you your sense of self and develop that as a young child. And there's 3 ways that your book talks about that your particular others help shape your sense of self. The first one is direct definition, the labels that people give us as a child. For my daughters, I say good girl, or my son, I say good boy, and I'm labeling them. I'm giving a direct definition to their sense of self. The second way is an identity script, and these rules that we are taught to follow and rules that we're taught to live by as we determine who we are. It's not until we get older that we're even aware of this process and this way of creating ourselves, and that we feel empowered to change them. And as I am a parent, I am super aware of how I am instrumental and influential in developing my children's sense of self through the use of identity scripts. The third way that particular others can shape our sense of self is through the attachment styles, the way of parenting, your parenting pattern. And your book labels 4 different kinds, from secure to dismissive, anxious and ambivalent to actually fearful. Super important. As you read through that part of the chapter, go ahead and think back to your own experience and try to define and discover what attachment styles your parents used. And then, of course, as we get older, we start to realize that there are ego boundaries. There is a point where I stop and the rest of the world starts, and I can separate myself into an entity apart from the rest of the world around me. And as a baby, we don't have that, and we just feel connected to everything, and everything is part of us. But as we develop, we do set ego boundaries. And then the next step, I guess, or part of defining ourselves is social comparison, and that happens a lot when we get to elementary school and we see friends around us and peers, and we start to just compare ourselves with those that we see and measure ourselves by them. And we start to seek reflected appraisal, and we start to realize and view ourselves in light of what others think about us. And then your book also, towards the end, starts discussing tips for enhancing your sense of self, because it is something that we develop lifelong, and I'm still in the process of identifying myself and developing it and changing it into who I want to be. And so one step is to be aware of the perspective of the generalized other, and that the generalized other, that is our culture. And the book really goes into the specifics of the Western culture and how the Western culture has specific categories that it focuses on. And I'm sure you'll agree, and you're probably already aware of that. And then as a second step, be cautious when you start to compare yourself in the social media world and with online identities that you see, because the social media world is not always reality, and we'll be discussing that in our discussion board this week, so I am excited to hear your perspective on that. Third, be careful about self-disclosure. It can be helpful in accepting yourself, but be careful who you self-disclose to, and make sure that it is a person that you trust and a person that you want to grow closer in your interpersonal communication. And finally, don't engage in self-sabotage. That is such a detriment to your intrapersonal communication when you just tear yourself down, and eventually you'll start believing your own message, and that will not enhance your sense of self. I hope you enjoy this chapter. It is a very nice chapter to reflect on how you were raised and how you are becoming the self that you are today. And so I'm sure that you'll enjoy the reading and focus in on those key concept terms. I've gone over several of them quickly, but use those as you work on your case study video and as you start to analyze your speeches this week.